What's up, guys? About a week ago, I had the opportunity to sit down and interview Luke Donald, who is the European Ryder Cup captain. This was before the news became official that the American team would be paid for playing in this year's Ryder Cup. $200,000 as a stipend, in addition to $300,000 for charity. So this was before that happened, but it doesn't really change anything. The news story had already dropped that it was going to happen. Luke was asked about this last year, and his position's been really consistent. So I don't imagine that he would say anything different now that it is official. So let's talk just a little bit about that decision and about the statement that the PGA of America gave. They tried to do the players a solid by saying no one asked to be paid. It wasn't like, oh, if you don't pay us for playing in the Ryder Cup next year, we're not going to play, because the American team's been playing for free in the Ryder Cup for decades. But there's clearly something there, right? Like, there are players on the team who feel like they should be compensated. They feel like the Ryder Cup has become really, really big business, and the Ryder Cup is largely built on the players. There is no Ryder Cup without the players, and I get it from that perspective. If you feel like someone is profiting off of your work unfairly and you're getting nothing, that's probably not a good feeling. Justin Thomas likened it to the NIL conversation in college athletics, which was, before they started getting paid. Did they need to get paid? It was like, well, no. I mean, there was still college football before NIL, but should they get paid? That's a different conversation. So they decided to go with $200,000, which, if you're one of the 12 best American golfers, that doesn't change your life, basically at all. So it's more symbolic than anything else. I think it's like they're trying to get out ahead of it and say, you guys are super important to this event. This event keeps growing and getting bigger. Here's a piece. It's almost like getting out ahead of it. It does put the ball in the players' court a little bit, because it's like, well, what are you going to do with that $200,000? Are you going to give it to charity, like Tiger Woods suggested?
It's never really been about getting paid. Is how can we allocate funds to be able to help our sport or help things that we believe in back home, because it's so hard to get onto that team. There's only 12 guys. What's wrong with being able to allocate more funds? I hope they get $5 million each and donate all of the charity, different charities. Okay, right? I think it's great. What's wrong with that?
I suspect that all the Americans will donate the money. I really do. I can't see this going any other way. It's $200,000 worth, the rallying cry that the Europeans would have if the Americans are getting paid and they're not. That's like, we're playing for passion, they're playing for money. It does speak to some cultural differences between the American team and the European team, that this is even an issue. It's a very American idea to feel like we're working hard, shouldn't we get compensated for this? This is just a prediction. I think they'll eventually donate the money, and I think they'll put this issue to bed. It's another layer of spice added to an already really spicy Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black. We know the crowd's going to be insane. We know the golf course is going to be big and hard, and it's just going to be a really intense week, and now there's another storyline to it. So, all right, without further ado, let's get into it. Enjoy.
I thought I might have an opportunity one day to be a captain. Things happened and I got the chance, and there's no way I was going to say no.
Hello, Luke.
Dan, how are you?
Nice to see you. You're doing this again. Did you ever expect to be doing it again?
Very fortunate to do it once, and obviously to do it twice is pretty amazing. It's been 30 years or so since we've had a repeat captain. It just hasn't happened very much, and I think that's really the reason why. When I was asked to do it, how could I say no? I'm excited for this go around. It's going to be a tougher challenge, as we know.
It's going to be a much tougher challenge, and I think that's something I wanted to touch on here. Is like, as we look toward the next one, I think everyone's had this Ryder Cup circled for a while. Bethpage Black, it's going to be a very, very different atmosphere. Does it feel different preparing for it?
Not really. I don't think the preparation really changes. There's always differences home and away, and I think you have to adapt and change and come up with different solutions for different problems. The Bethpage, we all know it's going to be rowdy. It's going to be a spirited, energetic crowd. And but I think knowing that gives you a chance to prepare for it, right? And kind of figure out some ways to deal with that.
The ultimate goal is to win, and that's why we're here, and that's where the journey starts today.
This is our first time getting the type of access into the your guys' process, the team room with this documentary. Any reservations about letting the access in?
I was a little wary about not to give away too many secrets, but I think the way we do it and the way the US do it is not the same. It is different.
The whole process.
And that's fine. The whole process, I think so. We're not really afraid to show the US. I think it's very hard to replicate. it has to be authentic. And I think the US do it their way, and they've been very successful. And yeah, hopefully, this me being a repeat captain will lead to some continuity and gives a little bit of a better chance playing away.
Were you as stunned as the rest of us when you learned that Keegan was going to be the captain?
I think we were all surprised. I think
Keegan was very
the most surprised was Keegan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Keegan's surprised, of course we're all surprised. It was a little bit left field, it really was, because one, I think he was 11 in the world when he was announced as captain. There was a lot of talk and media around him possibly playing in Rome. I think he still thinks he has 2 or 3 more Ryder Cups in him, the way he's playing. He had a good result just this last weekend. He's right up there. I see how hard he works. We're members at same club at the Grove in Jupiter. So it's an unusual pick because he has the ability to be a playing captain, which we haven't really experienced in a very, very long time, since Arnold Palmer back in the 60s. So yeah, it's all new territory, but I also know how much he has a passion for the Ryder Cup. You can tell when he talks about it. Even I watched a lot of the Presidents Cup. Just when he finished, you could see the emotion. You could see what it means to be in a team, and I'm sure that that quality will make him a good captain.
As captain, you have to be confident. I certainly have a lot of belief in my team.
We molded very quickly into a family.
Egos out the window. We're all one.
Every Ryder Cup has to come with its own story.
We have not lost at home for 30 years.
And when the whole team buy into what that story is, that's when special things happen.
You can see in the documentary how much buy-in you get from the top players on your team. I was looking back on Rory's history. He didn't have the nicest things to say about the Ryder Cup initially when he was a kid. He said it was an exhibition. He's come a long way. What do you chalk that up to?
A lot of those comments were before he had played one. And you just don't understand until you're in that sort of cauldron of pressure and energy and not wanting to let your teammates down, and the difference between winning and losing. He's been on both sides. You saw the emotion he had in Whistling Straits. Hopefully watching Una Famiglia will give some of these guys, these rookies that want to be Ryder Cup players, a real understanding of the emotions that go through.
You're playing for the past, present, and future generations of the game.
That's at the heart of Ryder Cups.
This is for you, and you. It's a wave of emotion that you can't get ready for.
What do you make of this payment stuff?
My voice on it was pretty clear last year. We were asked about it during the Ryder Cup because of everything that came about with Patrick. It got mentioned a lot to me in the media, and I just say I think it's one event we don't need to get paid for.
But needs an interesting word, right? I mean, because I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I think it was Justin Thomas was talking last week, and he drew a parallel to the NIL system, where did they need to get paid? No, there was still an NIL. There was still a college.
Yeah, but if you ask a lot of college coaches if they agree with the NIL, I think they would probably say no. Changes the dynamic completely.
So does it change the dynamic? You think it would change the dynamic?
Possibly. Look, I think if you understand where the money goes, and I've certainly got to understand a little bit more from a DP World side, from the Ryder Cup, where the money goes. It goes to a lot of grassroots. PGA of Great Britain gets a chunk of it. PGA of Europe gets a chunk of it. You're putting it back into the game, and it's really helping the game. And it's not like there's a massive pool left over. If there was, I think, and eventually we will get there. I think, I think the Ryder Cup is going to be to a point where it's grown so much that there's a lot of leftover money. And then maybe there's a decision to be made. Do the players get some compensation? But, I don't think we're there right now, especially from our side. And I think there's so much more about the Ryder Cup, and especially with everything going on in golf right now, the players are the only ones that have really benefited from everything that's happened in golf right now. The corporate sponsors, the media, the fans, they haven't really benefited from the split, LIV, PGA Tour, whatever you want to call it. And I think this is one week where, again, we don't need to be playing for money, and we'll keep it as it is.
Interesting that you say that with what's going on, because I don't think the two can be divorced from each other. It feels like there's been so much talk about money, and it almost feels like this was one bridge too far. It feels like almost a bit of an inflection point. Is that fair to say?
I think so. It's been talked about a lot. Obviously, I heard Tiger's comments last week. He said, 1999, he started talking about this issue and wanting to give more money to charity. But I feel like it's an event where the players gain. We talked about this, like the effect it has on these players. It's the enormity of it, the passion. You leave that week feeling like it's the best week ever. And it has nothing to do with money. We haven't been paid before. So, why do we need to add this other kind of extrinsic motivator? We have plenty of intrinsic motivators to keep us going for that week. I get the other side. But I think if you understand where the money's going and how it's being used, and it's being used productively, then this 1 week we don't need it.
I don't need to remind you of this. It's been a long time since someone won a Ryder Cup on the road. Why do you think it's gotten so difficult to win on the road, and this is just like the home team wins?
Well, we had some close ones. 2010, we only won by a point. Obviously, 12, we won by a point, but on our favor. Trying to think, 14, I wasn't at. It was not that close. 16 wasn't that close. Yeah, it hasn't been that close, I guess, since 2012. Maybe we're just getting smarter, that home advantage, how to kind of just push it in our favor with some of the decisions we get. But I do think it's still possible to win away. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this job if I didn't think it was. And I'm not sure really how you would change that. It just shows that home crowd support, that energy they feel, and a little bit of the golf course setup is advantageous to the home team.
Before last cycle, we saw a couple guys who were really defiant about they didn't want to pay the fines. I'm thinking about Sergio, and it was this whole mess. And I think there's been a shift where I don't know if John going over and Tyrrell going over, guys who were crucial parts of the last couple teams, and now you've got them saying how important it is for them to play in this event. Sergio's jumping through hoops to do it. You feel like you have your sort of full arsenal available to you? I
think so. We had a few guys that weren't at our disposal 2 years ago, and we were very successful. I think it was certainly a little bit of a new era, if you can. Some of those guys that played in Ryder Cups 6, 7, 8 times were probably at the end of the career, but they weren't available as well. But we have a couple of those other guys now from LIV that want to play, like Sergio. And I think the more people we have to pick from, the better. Obviously, you need strong players, and you need your top players playing well if you're going to have any chance of being successful.
I just got one question for Tom. Having been part of Full Swing for a little, I know how difficult it can be to get these guys to participate, but is it something about the team dynamic where they all just kind of leaned in?
Yeah, and it's something that, as Luke says, it's not something that you can just easily replicate. I think that's the important thing here is this is a number of years and 20, 30, 40 years of what it means to play in the Ryder Cup. And I think, we have been very fortunate with Luke and his passion for the Ryder Cup as a Ryder Cup historian of sorts as well. And that passion and that sort of desire to create a legacy and leave a legacy for the next captain has been really important for us. So we were just very fortunate to be able to use that and create something like Una Famiglia as a legacy from the 23 Ryder Cup as well. And it's something we've wanted to do for a number of Ryder Cups, but it's never easy to from an access perspective and getting that opportunity to tell the story in the right way. And that comes from building the trust, building relationships over a number of years rather than just a one-off opportunity.
Got it. Yeah. The rare media opportunity we're done 8 minutes early. I appreciate it, you guys. I appreciate it very much.
It's a wave of emotion that you can't get ready for.
I'll do whatever I need to do to be there.